Hello and welcome to Spectrum News at 9. I am Janice Kobum coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. Let's take a look at the headlines. President Buhari urges UAE President to lift blanket visa ban. Federal government inaugurates Presidential Transition Council. Plus, UN seeks nearly $400 million for Syria quake victims. Details of these stories and more in a moment. Many thanks for joining us tonight. First in the news, President Muhammadu Buhari today asked the President of the United Arab Emirates, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, to review the blanket visa ban imposed on Nigerians by the UAE government last October. He also asked Al Nahyan to restore the resumption of Emirate Airlines flight operations in Nigeria, which has been suspended since November 2022. According to a statement signed by the president's spokesperson, Garba Shehu, President Buhari pushed for these changes during a telephone conversation with his UAE counterpart, who doubles as the Emir of Abu Dhabi. In another development, President Muhammadu Buhari has signed the establishment bill of the National Institute for Hospitality and Tourism into law. This is contained in a statement by Joseph Karim, Special Assistant Technical to the Director General of NIHOTO, Sani Kangiwa in Abuja. The act established the Institute for Training, Certification and Registration of Hospitality, Travel and Tourism personnel in Nigeria. According to reports, the agency is a parastatal under the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture, engaged in training, consultancy, research and publication towards promoting skills and entrepreneurship. Meanwhile, President Buhari has assented to the Business Facilitation Bill 2022 and 5 other bills passed by the National Assembly. The Senior Special Assistant to the President on National Assembly Matters, Babajide Omowurare, made this known in a statement titled, President Muhammadu Buhari assents to the Business Facilitation Bill 2022 and other bills. According to the statement, the President sent the Business Facilitation Act to the National Assembly to ensure the ease of doing business and transparency, efficiency and productivity in Nigeria. The Act amends relevant legislation to promote the ease of doing business in Nigeria and institutionalizes all the reforms to ease implementation. In the meantime, the president says that he hopes to bequeath to the nation a democratic culture in which the police will not only be apolitical and impartial during the 2023 general elections, but also one in which the process will be peaceful and secure. Buhari, according to a statement by his special advisor on media and publicity, Femi Adesina, reminded the Inspector General of Police, Usman Baba, of his high expectations of his leadership. He said his expectations is in relation to the provision of requisite security that will engender not just a stable security space ahead of the general elections, but also guarantee the credibility of the exercise. And moving away from that, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, SGF Bas Mustafa, has inaugurated a 22-man transition council. The council is charged with the responsibility of handing over power to the president-elect, coordinating security for him, facilitating briefings between government agencies and the president-elect, and coordinating communications between the outgoing president and the president-elect. Recall that President Muhammadu Buhari had last week signed Executive Order number 14, which provides, among others, the legal framework for the management of the transition process and the handing over of power to the president-elect. The SGF urged the members to put in their best and ensure that the next administration enjoys the finest support to make it succeed. And elsewhere, the federal government is set to introduce a carbon tax policy and budgetary system for the country in line with the approved Energy Transition Plan as part of the Climate Change Act. Director General DG of the National Council on Climate Change NCCC, Salisu Dahiru, disclosed this after a meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari at the State House, Abuja. Dahiru said the agency sought and obtained approval to initiate key deliverables contained in the Climate Change Act, including establishing a carbon budget for the country. According to him, the carbon budget will be providing allowances for every government or private entity in terms of how much emissions it may allow, and exceeding those emissions could also attract penalties. Meanwhile, the federal government has stated that it will assist the Ekiti state government to tackle the ecological issues ravaging some parts of the state. The secretary to the government of the Federation, SGF, Bas Mustafa, said that the federal government will place the mudslide challenge in Ilewe-Ado Road as a top priority in its ecological support for the state. The statement by the Special Advisor on Media to Ekiti State Governor Yinka Oyebode stated that the SGF gave the assurances during a meeting with Ekiti State Governor Biodun Oyebanji in Abuja. According to him, the SGF assured that the federal government will act on it speedily to avert further disaster. And in another development, the federal government has reiterated its commitment to the elimination of bottlenecks and promotion of efficient operations at the Seme-Krake border to enhance trade and economic integration with member countries of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. The Minister of State for Transportation, Ademola Adegoroye, re-echoed the government's position at the inauguration of 3 multi-million naira projects executed by the Federal Ministry of Transportation at the Seme-Krake Joint Border Post in Lagos. The projects included roofing of 3 walkways for arriving and departing passengers, construction of 20 toilet facilities, and provision of 2 solar-powered boreholes, as well as water treatment plants. Adegoroye, in a statement issued in Abuja, hinted that the Seme-Krake Joint Border Post has remained a symbol of integration between the people of Nigeria and Republic of Benin, stating that the border post has enhanced free movement of persons and goods in the sub-region. In the meantime, Minister of Information and Culture Lai Mohammed today said the federal government has started the process of declaring 111 historical sites in the country as national monuments. Buhari disclosed this in Abuja at the 26th edition of the President Muhammadu Buhari Administration Course Card Series 2015 to 2023. He said the process of declaring the sites as national monuments had reached an advanced stage and awaiting presidential assent. According to the minister, when the 111 national monuments came on board, they would be added to the existing 65. And to judiciary now, where a federal high court in Abuja has extended the order restraining the People's Democratic Party from suspending or expelling Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike. The court extended the interim order it made on February 2, restraining the PDP and its leadership from making suspensions or expulsion moves on the governor. Respondents in the suit include the PDP, the National Working Committee of the party, the National Executive Council, its chairman Iyocha Ayu, the National Secretary Samuel Anyanwu, and the Independent National Electoral Commission. Recall that Wike had, through his lawyer Joshua Musa San, informed the court that the first to fifth respondents served him with a counter affidavit they filed in opposition to the suit. In the judiciary now, the Federal High Court sitting in Abakaliki has disbanded the Southeast security outfit Ibubago in Ebonyi State. The court gave the order today. The disbandment was attributed to human rights abuses, extortion, illegal arrest and use of firearms perpetrated by the security outfit. Meanwhile, Ondo State High Court sitting in Akura, the state capital, today sentenced two persons, Ayuba Idris and Tasiu Abubakar, to death by hanging for killing a couple. The convicts were arrested by the State Police Command in 2019 for killing one Kwaku Kwaye and his wife Tokpe Kwaye at their residence at Ojomo Akinton Estate along Ilesha-Owo Expressway, Akure. The police said the convicts were security guards in the employ of the deceased before killing her and fleeing. They were, however, arrested shortly after. The duo were charged to court on 5 counts of conspiracy, armed robbery and murder, and the matter has been on since 2019. In education, Director General of the National Youth Service Corps, NYSC, Brigadier General Y.D. Ahmed, has urged corps members enlisted in the forthcoming general elections to stay neutral and adhere strictly to the guidelines of the Electoral Act in the discharge of their duties. Ahmed made his position known today while presiding over the closing ceremony of the 2023 batch A-Stream 1 orientation course held at the NYSC Permanent Orientation Camp, Borough Town. He noted that the performance of corps members in previous elections contributed to the credibility of the process, which earned the scheme accolades from local and international observers. Away from that, former President Olusegun Obasanjo has blamed the failure of the federal government to produce Nigerian-made satellites on the lack of continuity of policies by his successors. Obasanjo said lack of continuity in policies in the last 15 years had been responsible for the inability of the country to produce its own satellite. The former president stated this in a statement today by his special assistant on media, Kainde Akinyemi, when the management team of Algorithm Limited, led by the chief executive officer Rashid Adegoke, paid him a courtesy visit at his Olusegun Obasanjo Presidential Library penthouse residence. And elsewhere, Nasarawa State Governor Abdullahi Sule has said preliminary findings by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited has revealed that there is crude oil in Agwatashi and Asakwe communities in Obi local government area of the state. The NNPCL had found oil in Kena local government area, and preparations are on top gear to commence its drilling in the month of March. Speaking during an interactive session with APC stakeholders in Obi local government today, Governor Sule said his administration will not relent until Nasarawa State begins to enjoy the 13% derivation as an oil-producing state. The governor further said that the state government would sign a memorandum of understanding with the NNPCL on February 18, 2023 to enable them commence the drilling of the oil in Kena local government without hitches. To Kano now, where the state government today warned that it would not hesitate to revoke the operational licenses of major business owners or take action on anyone who refuses to accept the old naira notes as a means of transaction. The state governor Abdullahi Ganduje, who handed down the warning in a statement issued by the Kano State Commissioner for Information and Internal Affairs, Mohammed Garba, said the old naira notes still remained a legal tender. According to him, the Supreme Court was emphatic on his interim injunction on the issue of old naira notes, which could continue to be used as legal tender hand in hand with the new ones until gradual and final phase out. And still to come in the news, CBN insists on February 10 deadline. Do stay with us.
As Nigeria prepares for the general elections holding from 25th February 2023, broadcasters are enjoined to make ethical reportage their watchword. All political programs shall observe the provisions of the Nigeria Broadcasting Code and other extant laws relating to broadcasting. All broadcasting stations must adhere to the principles of pluralism and ensure equitable airtime to all political parties or views. All political programs shall adhere to the general principles of legality, decency, and truthfulness. For the avoidance of doubt, the broadcast of a political campaign, jingle, announcement, or any other form of partisan party identification or symbol ends not later than 24 hours before polling day. Hate speech is prohibited. Be professional. NBC, your right to quality broadcasting. Announcer Management.
Many thanks for still being there. Now to the rest of our stories. In Africa, a cruise line between Libya and Tunisia have been launched for the first time in over 11 years. The Libyan Ministry of Transportation said in a statement that the launch ceremony of the cruise line was attended by the Minister of Transport, Mohamed Al-Shuhaibi, the Tunisian ambassador to Libya, Al-Assad, Al-Ajli, and a number of senior Libyan officials. The statement added that efforts will be made in the future to launch several cruise lines from Libya to several neighboring countries. Recall that 2 years ago, the Libyan government launched a cruise line between Libya and Turkey for the first time in over 20 years, a step aimed at promoting the partnership between the two countries' public and private sectors. And still in Africa, South Africa declared a national disaster after heavy rains left 7 of its 9 provinces flooded, destroying roads and bridges and leaving farmers suffering losses. The National Weather Service predicts that the heavy rain will persist. It said the heavy rains were brought by the La Nina global weather phenomenon, which occurs in the Pacific Ocean. And on a rather sad note, 20 people were killed and 61 others injured following a crash between and in a cash-in-transit armored van and a bus in South Africa's Limpopo province. The bus rolled off a bridge into a river below, landing on its side at around 20:00 on Monday. Most of the victims reportedly died after being trapped inside the bus. There have been heavy rains in the area. Emergency services were still on the scene this morning, with heavy downpours delaying their work. And elsewhere to Kenya now, where President William Ruto has ordered the army to join a security operation against armed bandits in the northern Rift Valley region who have killed dozens of people in recent months. A government notice said the troops would be deployed to support the police from Wednesday. It came as the Interior Minister declared parts of 6 countries in the region as disturbed and dangerous, issuing a 30-day dusk-to-dawn curfew starting from Tuesday. It ordered all people holding illegal guns and ammunition to hand them over to the authorities in 3 days or meet the full force of the law. Meanwhile, more than 100 civilians and 16 police officers have been killed by bandits in the past 6 months, according to the Interior Ministry. Meanwhile, Kenyan President William Ruto is hosting a national prayer day to seek God's intervention on challenges facing the country, including drought and hunger. The interdenominational event is being held at the stadium in the capital, Nairobi. The East and Horn of Africa region is witnessing the worst drought in 40 years, with Kenyan officials saying at least 4.3 million people are in dire need of food assistance. The prayers have, however, drawn criticisms from people who say the government should be working on mitigation measures instead of holding prayers. Away from that, militants have attacked an army outpost and a gold mine run by precious stones miners, Gemfields Group, in the northern Mozambican district of Montepuzes in Cabo Delgado province. Reports say the early morning attack took place in the village of Nairoto at around an unspecified number of police and forest rangers were killed in the attack. Motepuz District Administrator Isara Makwina confirmed the attacks but provided no details on casualties. Cabo Delgado has been the epicenter of militant violence since 2017. In the meantime, 8 people were killed after a ferry and a motorized canoe collided on Lake Kivu in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo DCR. According to Transport Minister of South Kivu Province, Matthew Malumni, 4 men and 4 women aboard the canoe died in the accident. The canoe was leaving for Divi, an island in the middle of the large volcanic lake, when it collided with the Emmanuel 3, a ferry that shuttles between Bukavu and Goma, the capital of the neighboring North Kivu province. On the foreign scene now, the United Nations launched an appeal for $397 million today to help earthquake victims in Syria, where the disaster has killed thousands of people and left millions more in desperate need of aid. Secretary General Antonio Guterres, announcing the appeal at the UN headquarters in New York, said the funds would bring life-saving relief for nearly 5 million Syrians and would cover a period of 3 months. He added that the world body was in the final stages of a similar appeal for Turkey. He called on member states to fully fund these efforts without delay and help the millions of children, women and men whose lives have been impeded by the generational disaster. Guterres also urged that aid workers be allowed to operate freely in Syria, already racked by 12 years of civil war. And still on the foreign scene, the U.S. today said it expects Ukraine to launch an offensive against Russia over the next few months as Russian forces continue their fight to seize the city of Bakhmut in eastern Ukraine. Earlier today, NATO Defense Minister gathered for talks on how to step up their military support for Ukraine. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said today that he expected Ukraine to conduct an offensive against Russia in the spring. He also said that Russia is introducing a number of new troops to the battlefield, but that many are ill-trained and ill-equipped. In the meantime, NATO Chief Jens Stoltenberg raised the possibility for the first time today of Finland joining NATO without Sweden, saying ratifying the two at the same time was not the main question. Parliaments in all 30 members of the military alliance must formally ratify Finland and Sweden before they can be admitted. Turkey and Hungary are the only two NATO members not to have done this. Turkey has suggested it could greenlight Finland's bid to join without accepting Sweden into the alliance. Meanwhile, German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock said during a visit to Stockholm today that the two countries should be admitted before NATO's summit in July in Vilnius. And elsewhere, climate activists blocked a road near the UK Parliament today with a Valentine's-themed protest before being dragged away by members of the public, with police making 6 arrests. Activists from the group Animal Rebellion lit flares as they sat at a table with a candelabra and champagne flutes on Westminster Bridge in central London. According to reports, one wore a mask with the face of Prime Minister Rishi Sunak in a protest against government subsidies for animal farming and fishing. Other activists sat on the road with placards. Police said they arrested 5 activists for blocking the road and a 6th person for assaulting a protester. Meanwhile, the European Parliament today gave its final approval to a ban on new sales of carbon-emitting petrol and diesel cars by 2035, with a view to getting them off the continent's roads by mid-century. European Union member states have already approved the legislation and will now formally nod it into law at an upcoming ministerial meeting, despite opposition from conservative MEPs, the parliament's biggest group. Supporters of the bill had argued that it would give European car makers a clear time frame in which to switch production to zero. Reports say emission electric vehicles and spur investments to counter competition from China and the United States. This, in turn, will also support the European Union's ambitious plan to become a climate-neutral economy by 2050 with net-zero greenhouse gas emissions. In another development, former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Nikki Haley has announced she is running for president in 2024, challenging fellow Republican candidate Donald Trump by proposing a new generation of leadership in Washington. Casting herself as a younger, fresher alternative to the 76-year-old former President Trump, Haley had been hinting at a possible run for weeks and teasing a big announcement on February 15. Meanwhile, she made her presidential aims official a day early on Valentine's Day. Harley is positioning herself as a changemaker who can reinvigorate a party and country she says have lost their way in recent years, and she played up her personal background as a way to unite a nation strained by racial tensions. And elsewhere, Moldova have reopened its airspace after temporary closure today. The latest development comes after Moldova's president accused Russia of plotting her government's overthrow. The accusation has been rejected by Moscow. Recall that last week, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said Kyiv had intercepted a plan for the destruction of Moldova by Russian intelligence. And still on the foreign scene, Germany's Defense Minister Boris Pistorius says his country has just signed contracts with the arms manufacturing company Rheinmetall to make more ammunition for the Gepard air defense guns that Berlin's already sent to Ukraine. The defense minister said that German-made Gepard has been used effectively in Ukraine to shoot down low-flying Iranian kamikaze drones, but the anti-aircraft gun is no longer in production. Pistorius noted that it would take months to supply new ammunition for the air defense system as production lines were restarted. He added that the supply of air defenses and ammunition was a much higher priority for Ukraine than any discussion about providing fighter jets. In business, the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, has said that there was no need to shift the February 10, 2023 deadline. He said this during a visit today to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to discuss the monetary and currency redesign policy of the bank. He said the situation is substantially calming down since the commencement of over-the-counter payments to complement ATM disbursements and the use of super agents. In a related development, as the currency redesign policy continues to generate confusion across the country, the Central Bank of Nigeria has vowed to clamp down on point-of-sale owners who have turned themselves to payment agents to take advantage of members of the public. The Apex Bank describes such unaccredited payment agents as fifth columnists whose activities constituted economic sabotage, saying that it would carry out sting operations around the country this week to arrest and prosecute them. The Director's Governor's Department, CBN, Joseph Omayuku, who stated these while briefing journalists in Yenagoa, Bayelsa State, said the sharp practices were discovered after reviews of the implementation of the policy. He said that the POS operators also engage in the selling of Naira notes for Naira notes to buyers and misrejection of online payments by some business operators, including petrol stations and supermarkets. In the meantime, the Nigerian Data Protection Bureau, NDPB, has said that it is presently investigating over 110 companies in Nigeria over allegation of data breach. This was disclosed by the National Commissioner of NDPB, Vincent Olatunji, in Lagos. He said the companies being investigated include banks, telecommunication firms, gaming companies, and online leading companies. The National Commissioner noted that the Nigerian Police Force is presently working with the Bureau on the matter. Meanwhile, the Debt Management Office DPO has announced that it raised 724.9 billion naira in February 2023 federal government bond action. DBO said it was a 100% increase compared to the previous years, Reports say the auction, which was held on February 13, 2023, saw a total of 577 bids worth 724.9 billion naira received for the total amount offered of 360 billion naira. The total amount allotted was 771.56 billion naira, with successful bids allotted at marginal rates of 13.99%, 14.90%, 15.90% and 16.00%. Meanwhile, according to a statement on the DMO's website, it said the auction was part of its efforts to raise funds for the implementation of the federal government's 2023 budget and to finance critical infrastructure projects across the country. And still to come in the news, Charles Leclerc sets sights on winning Ferrari's first F1 driver's title for 16 years. Just stay with us.
As Nigeria prepares for the general elections holding from 25th February 2023, broadcasters are enjoined to make ethical reportage their watchword. All political programs shall observe the provisions of the Nigeria Broadcasting Code and other extant laws relating to broadcasting. All broadcasting stations must adhere to the principles of pluralism and ensure equitable airtime to all political parties or views. All political programs shall adhere to the general principles of legality, decency, and truthfulness. For the avoidance of doubt, the broadcast of a political campaign, jingle, announcement, or any other form of partisan party identification or symbol ends not later than 24 hours before polling day. Hate speech is prohibited. Be professional. NBC, your right to quality broadcasting. Announcer Management.
One truth not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyekan every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa, telling the African story.
Every day, we bring you up-to-date information on topical issues affecting the common Nigerian. From issues on politics,
hello Nigeria, I remain committed.
Security, education, health, lifestyle, and so much more. Join Janice Kobum and Uyai Anyekan every weekday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Rise and Shine Daily, exclusive on Spectrum Television.
The Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigeria Police Force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Thanks for still being there. Now to the rest of our stories. In health, the World Health Organization WHO says it is sending teams of trained contact tracers to eastern Equatorial Guinea to try to contain an outbreak of the deadly Marburg virus. More than 4,000 people have been placed in lockdown in Ki Ntam province following the deaths of 9 people and a further 16 suspected cases. The WHO has been holding an emergency meeting of its Marburg team in Geneva. According to reports, the hemorrhagic fever is from the same family of diseases as Ebola, but that no vaccine has yet been developed. The virus' natural host is the African fruit bat, which can pass the virus to primates. And still in health, the federal government has said that it has achieved the criteria to stop the treatment for river blindness in Imo, Abia, Enugu and Anambra states, representing more than 18.9 million people. The federal government said the states joined 10 others that have achieved interrupted transmission of river blindness, enabling Nigeria to stop treatment for more than 28 million people, more than any other country in the world. Reports say onchocerciasis, commonly known as river blindness, is caused by the parasitic worm Onchocerca volvulus. It is transmitted to humans through exposure to repeated bites of infected black flies of the genus Simulium. Symptoms including itching, severe itching, disfiguring skin condition, and visual impairment, including permanent blindness. Nigeria reportedly has the largest population at risk for river blindness of all countries globally, with more than 100 million people in 32 states and the Federal Capital Territory affected. Nigeria has, however, also made the greatest strides globally in eliminating the disease. In the meantime, Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, has appointed Nigeria's former Minister of Health, Dr. Mohammed Pate, as its new Chief Executive Officer. Dr. Pate will take over as the CEO of Gavi from Dr. Seth Barkley on August 3, 2023. Pate was selected as the CEO following a year-long recruitment process, personally overseen by the chair of the Gavi board, Professor Jose Barroso. In a press statement made available to newsmen, Gavi said 344 people across diverse gender and geographical backgrounds applied for the position, but Pate was selected for the position. Described as a proven global health leader with experience at the national and international levels, Dr. Pate will lead Gavi as it continues its work to support routine immunization, outbreak response, and COVID-19 vaccinations around the world. In sports, Charles Leclerc has set his sights on trying to win Ferrari's first Formula One driver's title for 16 years this season. Leclerc, who finished second to Red Bull's Max Verstappen last year, said he believed Ferrari had done a great job on their new car, which was unveiled on Tuesday. The last Ferrari driver to win the World Championship was Kimi Räikkönen in 2007, and the team's history since then has been one of near misses. They came closest with Fernando Alonso in 2010 and 2012 and disappointment. Meanwhile, their season in 2022 was a major step forward compared with a lack of competitiveness in the 2 previous years. And still in sports, Steven Scarry is unwilling to set a target date for his return from a leg injury, but he will not be back for the Golden State Warriors' first game after his weekend's NBA All-Stars break. Curry was forced off the third quarter of a 119-113 win against the Dallas Mavericks earlier this month after his knee collided with that of opposing point guard McKinley, writes 4. Scans subsequently revealed Corey had suffered tears to his superior tibiofibular ligaments and interosseous membrane, as well as a contusions to his lower left leg. While the two-time NBA MVP hopes to return to the court for practice after Sunday's All-Star game, he has ruled himself out of the Warriors' trip to the Los Angeles Lakers on February 23. Meanwhile, the Super Falcons have arrived at Leon State of Guanajuato, Mexico for the four-nation Inter-Invitational Tournament Revelation Cup. The 2023 edition will be held in Leon, Mexico from February 15 to 21, 2023. The Super Falcons take on Mexico in their first game at 10 p.m. on Wednesday. The team will play their last match against Costa Rica on February 21. The four countries participating in the tournament include Nigeria, Costa Rica, Colombia, and Mexico. On the entertainment news, South African police says evidence gathered to date leads them to believe the killing of the rapper Ake on Saturday was an assassination. The police commissioner of KwaZulu-Natal province, Nalala Makwanazi, said the gunman had approached Kenan Phopes from behind and shot him at close range and the side of his head. A second gunman then started firing to deter onlookers from getting involved. According to reports, one of those rounds killed the friend with Ake, Tibbs Motson. General Makwanazi said his officers were still checking the identities of all of those at the scene in Durban that night. And still on entertainment news, popular reality TV star Adekunle Olapade has indicated an interest in becoming the host of Africa's popular reality show, Big Brother Naija, BB Naija. The BB Naija Level Up finalist, who applied for the role in a public post shared on his Twitter handle, declared that he is ready to replace the current host, Ebuka Obi Uchendo, in the future. Sharing the application on social media, the 27-year-old tagged the official Big Brother Africa handle to let the organizers know of his seriousness. Adekunle noted that this might be the best time to start learning how the job is done from the current host, Ebuka. And finally tonight, Nigerian comedian and actress Favour Daniel has died. The comedian, who gained prominence on social media for her action, was reportedly to have passed away in the boat accident. Elizabeth Daniel, Favour's eldest sister, who made the disclosure, said Favour was involved in the fatal accident on February 5 and died shortly after. Meanwhile, many celebrities have taken to the comment section to express their disbelief, pray for the family, and offer support. And that's all we have for you tonight on the news. Do well to follow us on all our social media handles and ensure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website at spectrumtv.ng. You have been watching Spectrum News at 9. My name is Janice Cobham. Do have a peaceful night rest.
As Nigeria prepares for the general elections holding from 25th February 2023, broadcasters are enjoined to make ethical reportage their watchword. All political programs shall observe the provisions of the Nigeria Broadcasting Code and other extant laws relating to broadcasting. All broadcasting stations must adhere to the principles of pluralism and ensure equitable airtime to all political parties or views. All political programs shall adhere to the general principles of legality, decency, and truthfulness. For the avoidance of doubt, the broadcast of a political campaign, jingle, announcement, or any other form of partisan party identification or symbol ends not later than 24 hours before polling day. Hate speech is prohibited. Be professional. NBC, your right to quality broadcasting. Announcer Management.